Back in the wee years of 2016, when the film Warcraft came out, critically panned, but the audiences clamored for it. But it did nothing at the box office, and now we are here, many years later, and it is trending as the #2 film on Netflix, which hasn't been streaming in a lot of places for quite some time now, and it's become the talk again. So the question is, were the critics right about Duncan Jones' film Warcraft based off of the video game series, or were they wrong and the audience is right? We'll let you know. Warning. The following show features reviews from wildly unprofessional critics operating without the supervision of professionals. The thoughts and opinions held by these individuals are not to be taken seriously and do not come from a place of intellectual integrity. This show doesn't reflect the opinions of Criticalist or its users. Viewer discretion is advised. What's up? What's up? What is up, everybody? Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Criticalist Cast Unhinged. And we are bringing you another critic-hated, audience-loved film because we like to throw one of these to you guys every once in a while because, for one, it really just comes right down to what Criticalist is all about, which is about the audience and what the people think. And if you are not familiar with Criticalist.com, make sure to do that right now. Before you do anything else, go to Criticalist.com, to the website, or to your app stores, whether it be Apple or Android. We are there as well as an app, and we are for reviewing movies and entertainment, TV shows, just talking about what you're enjoying and consuming, and just hanging out with friends and meeting new people that like the same things that you like or don't, and just hang out with some folks and hang out with a really good community over there. So, like I said, today we are going to be talking about the film that came out in 2016, Warcraft. This was directed by Duncan Jones, and this movie was this big budget, going to be this big deal. It had been talked about forever. You know, Warcraft, World of Warcraft was a video game and has been for ages, and they were talking about a film forever, and it finally got made. And we had a relatively star-studded pack. Not a pact. Yes, yeah. Cast. Thank you. Yes, a cast. It could be a pact. Granted, we are recording at like 1 o'clock in the morning, so I am a wee bit rusty. But this was right when Travis Fimmel was coming off of doing the Vikings show, and they brought him in for the lead with it. We've got 2 of the lead actors from the television show Preacher. There are just a lot of recognizable people. This was back when Ben Foster was on the rise before he just kind of disappeared. I mean, there's just so much interesting about this movie, and I actually think I saw it with Mr. Chris Kaus.
Sure did. First time in the theaters. The only other time I've seen this movie outside of just now.
Same. Yeah, I haven't seen it since then, so I was really interested to talk about it. And joining us as well is Mr. Matt Verlack.
First time viewer here, never seen this before, but I did play some of the older games. I've never played WoW.
Okay.
2 and 3, though, were my jam.
Yeah,
so, nice. I've never played any of them. I mean, I listen to Chris talk about them forever, and he's going to be our lore expert to talk about all of the things that we don't know. Because he has clocked quite a few hours, to the point in which Chris had online friends that he played WoW with that he would literally travel across the country and to other countries to hang out with.
True facts.
If that says anything about Chris and his WoW days. So, did you guys know that Duncan Jones is the son of none other than David Bowie?
That's some bullshit. First of all right. Why we're starting this off with lies and deceit and conspiracy theories?
Conspiracy theories.
Like, is it proven? Do we know the mother?
I don't know his mom. No, I mean David Bowie's the dad. That's what matters.
He's fucked every person, including me. Like,
that would not be a surprise.
That could be true.
For multiple reasons.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. So
yes, that was his dad. Now I was looking. Apparently, his first wife, Angie Bowie, was an American model and actress, and that is the mother of Duncan Jones.
David Bowie's first wife.
Yes.
Okay. Sorry.
And Duncan Jones, the director of this film, who actually, I don't know if you guys were aware as well, this is the director of the very praised movie Moon with Sam Rockwell.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That was his kind of directorial debut, and where he showed up on the scene. Doubloons. And he did Source Code a couple of years later, which was also excellent.
Forgot about that movie.
Right. It was really good.
Never seen it.
You never saw that? You should see it.
Source Code?
Source Code. It's a train. Talk about train movies. You'd want to go check out our Kill review. But yes, Choo Choo. as one does say on a regular basis.
Yes. I literally have a 2-year-old. I say choo-choo all the
I bet
fucking
you-
time. Okay.
I bet you do. And he did do a movie called Mute, which I have yet to see, which came out on Netflix.
Okay.
It was a very like synth wavy, very cyberpunky kind of a film.
Yeah.
Yeah. He did that, and it was a Netflix original that starred
Well, the Skarsgård.
Skarsgård,
no.
yes.
Wait, wasn't Mute? It was like
It was Paul Rudd, Justin Theroux, Alexander Skarsgård.
no, not the people. But what the story was about.
Mm.
It wasn't attached to
He was a mute man.
what's the one Altered Carbon?
No, it felt like an
No.
altered carbon from what I gather. But
It was related to some story. I have 100% seen it. I thought it was related, just like Moon.
I think it
is,
came out around that time, and so it like felt
Okay.
similar. I think.
All right.
I don't know. So
Well, I
anyways,
definitely don't know.
I did want to dig into Duncan Jones a little bit just to make everybody aware of what he was connected to, who
Bowie.
he was, and yeah, that's kind of his whole deal. And really, I mean, looking at this cast, it's a pretty stacked cast as far as recognizable faces. Not a ton that you see all the time now, but definitely some famous folks.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, it was kind of one of these things where I don't know. This was around the time when Rotten Tomatoes was really having a heyday as far as like Rotten Tomatoes, like the critics could bomb a movie and then you could watch the metrics in the box office. Like it would get bombed on Rotten Tomatoes and you would watch it bomb in the theaters.
Mm.
This was around that time. And I remember this was around, I mean, I had thought about Criticless before this, but it was around then that I was really stewing on. I was like, we need a freaking alternative. Cause like, I remember movies like this coming out and being like, okay, look, like, you know, I won't spoil my opinion on this movie, but it's like, you know, I'm hearing what people are thinking and whatever, but the critics are just slamming this thing. And if you guys wanted to know, as far as the Rotten Tomatoes score, this has a 29 on Rotten Tomatoes. So a 29%.
I think I was closer.
Real low. Yeah, they were guessing before we started.
Yeah.
So
A little internal
Yeah,
bet.
Yeah.
we decided not to go through and dig into their scores a whole lot anymore, and today especially, but it's sitting at a 29% by critics and a 79% by general audiences. Now we're going to go ahead and get into our spoiler-free review, and then you guys can bail if you plan on watching this, but you can get a decent idea of what you're getting into, and then we'll roll into our spoiler review and spoil the movie.
And just quickly, I mean, it's on Netflix currently.
Very
So
easy to watch.
It's easily accessible, and as Blaine said, it's number 2 currently because it's
people,
it's on there, and
see
people
it.
love WoW and Warcraft stuff.
Yeah.
Right. And people I don't think saw it back when it came out. I mean, it did terrible in the box office. And so I remember Chris being really excited about it. I was like, well, I don't know anything about Warcraft, but we'll freaking go. You were excited. Don't deny it. You were
No, I specifically remember Blaine enjoying this movie way more than I did.
right. Well, of course, that would be the case with you, like being into the lore and all that stuff. That probably makes sense, right?
It's less about the lore than it is the social aspect of it. Yeah.
Interesting. Oh, the game, you mean? The social aspect.
I was
of the game.
very embarrassed about it back then.
Yeah, that was a long part of we have known each other for how long now? I mean, we met when we were what,
it
like,
as a secret.
he kept
many
playing
years.
WoW a secret until we were well into our 20s. I did not even know he played. I didn't know he had online friends. I didn't know any of this. I had known him for somewhere in the ballpark of
half our life at that point.
At that point,
Now it's like
most of our
3/4.
life.
Yeah.
And I didn't even know he played. I had no idea.
Yeah.
He didn't talk about it.
Yeah.
One day he brought it up and I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? You have friends that you're going to meet that play WoW.
So I would have played WoW because, like I said earlier, I played WoW, Warcraft 2 and Warcraft 3.
Yeah.
Right.
Warcraft
But
3 is far superior.
It
by the
is.
way. Yeah.
But when they introduced the pay structure of WoW, of in paying monthly to play online and all that shit, and
$10.
it was between that and me being a broke high schooler,
Right.
and my parents refusing to pay for like upgraded internet
Mhm.
for me to stream or play online.
Yeah.
I was like, well, WoW is
This is
never
what's up.
happening.
Yeah.
It
And
was
so
it was one of those that I had entertained, but I never had a PC power on it full enough to game.
Yeah. Oh,
And then I got into the college years, had friends that tried to talk me into it, and I was like, it's too late now. I'm too far away.
dude, yeah. And my PC, the one that was in my room, was literally running Windows 98. Good luck fucking playing WoW on a PC running 98.
True.
Like, not happening. So I just never ever bothered
Right.
playing anything like that.
Now the question is, as far as this goes, do you guys find this as an approachable film for people who haven't played the game after seeing it?
Let's start with Chris.
I honestly think that like it starts off pretty hot and heavy, and they name a good bit of names and
lore
and shit that's kind of hard to follow. But I honestly think it's okay. It doesn't take away from the story not knowing the specifics of these things. So, it might take away initially, just like in the flashpoint of the start of the movie. But I think overall, you don't need to know the specifics. So I feel like most of the time, what they're mentioning is more of just like a callback or a Easter egg for the people who actually know the things. It's not
mild fan service.
Yeah, it's not a necessity for following the story because it's a very straightforward story. But they do mention a lot of names and things that but it's more of, like you said, a fan service. Yeah.
And see, not having played WoW at all, and I don't remember 3.
Yeah.
2 is a childhood like fever dream memory for me. I think they did do a good enough job of keeping the details elusive enough for the non-fans or coming out of nowhere people to enjoy it, being like, oh, the orcs are coming from a different universe.
Yeah.
Like,
it's
okay,
easy to grasp.
like it was graspable enough.
Yeah.
Sure.
So, yeah, like, and all the specific names of things were mentioned, like, Westfall or, all these different places.
Sure.
But it didn't.
It's not essential.
It wasn't. There wasn't any substance behind it. Like, you didn't need to know what that was to follow the story. So I think they did a good job in that.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Now, I guess we're going to go ahead and dig into our, deeper into that part of the review. What I did want to run through extraordinarily quickly here is the themes. On Criticalist, we have themes, which is basically just how you would rate this thing. So after you have given your review as far as where you sit with the score, then you will come down to the themes. And so as far as graphic language, I don't know that there's any.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, I would say none.
I think there's none.
Yeah.
Violence, I would say a bit to a bit more.
I would honestly say a lot.
It is so hard.
We just fucking watched.
Oh my god!
Like the most hardcore gore porn.
No. But
you're
that's
like,
the thing. But.
Oh my god!
We saw so many people getting impaled by swords and things like this, and so I think the last movie was a lot, and I think this movie is a lot also. This is more fantasy related and CGI bombs, but we still see a lot of people getting impaled on swords.
Wrong. You are just wrong.
It's 2-3. He's wrong.
I don't have a veto in this relationship, but I'm going to veto this and say that it is a bit.
I disagree.
I say between a bit and a bit more as well. Matt, it's not
fine.
It's
my review will look different than y'all's.
And also,
whatever.
Yeah. Also, 90% of the blood is green orc.
It's not red.
I literally said CGI doesn't count in my violence and gore.
Okay, so
if this was a person
saying that it doesn't count means it shouldn't count.
No. It still counts in my mind, but as human. So like I'm not detracting point.
You're saying when humans die, it's worse.
No. You guys are twisting
you're racist. All right. No, I got it.
Wow. Okay.
No. I'm just saying I'm treating orc green blood the same as if it was red human blood.
Okay.
So that's why I'm saying it is.
Okay. Well, we have decided that Matt is wrong, and it is somewhere between. We'll put it in between a bit and a bit more. We'll say that. And then as far as nudity and sexual content, I mean, I would say none, but also you got like Thickums the orc who's like running around, and she's like,
she'd be thick.
Yeah. And I mean the dudes as well. I mean, there's a lot of thick orcs, you know what I'm saying? But I would say
the vast majority of orcs are men.
Yeah, they are. They are mostly men.
No, but the half human, half orc.
Yeah.
She's a baddie. All right. So political bias, I'd say none.
No.
There's nothing really political in this.
All right. Well, you don't know the lore. No, there's none.
Yeah, I mean, connected to the lore, yes.
No human American.
This movie felt a little orc leaning to me. Look, I felt like there was an orc sympathizer making this movie.
Yeah.
Somebody really likes the fell.
Yeah, they clearly like the fell. Okay.
Cool,
so it is a cool name. All right. So as far as family friendliness, I would say between maybe and honestly very. Now, not 100%.
I would say
more maybe.
See, Matt is so much more
y'all's-
strict on this than we are all the time, especially when it comes to
You
violence.
literally said you were like maybe
Maybe to vary. Vary.
How is that?
Y'all's scope on shit is so out of whack
Why
from
is it
what.
y'all?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Why is
but
y'all? Wait,
see,
wait,
gotta be
no,
y'all.
Chris, what is yours? What is your opinion on
mine
this?
is
then?
vary on this.
Very
Also,
child
because
friendly.
the violence is
You want to show
so
this to a
low.
5-year-old?
Yeah, they could watch this. Might be a little traumatizing. Yours aren't exactly
see
friendly.
some souls sucked
Okay,
from
but
some
also
bodies, but
you
like
were saying like what was the last one they reviewed before? Not this last one, but
Boondock Saints? Very
No.
family friendly. I
Yeah,
show that to my
very
5-year-old all the time.
the
I'm trying to think. Oh, if maybe, or I'm trying to think. We haven't done many family friendly
shit, I
movies.
can't-
No.
my memory's dog.
Okay,
shit.
so
Ah,
I'll,
But there
I'll
was
say this.
Get outta
something that I
here.
was like,
Get outta
this
here.
is. What was that?
Get out of here!
He was throwing up gang signs and everything.
He was.
That was off camera.
All right. So what I'll say is this. I have now. Granted, I let my kids see things that some people wouldn't let their kids see. We aren't hyper.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
Alien.
Yeah. I mean,
Alien
yes,
is much more traumatizing.
It
than
is.
this.
I let my daughter watch Alien.
And
but
it's not that traumatizing.
It's really not. She's like going on 11. She was fine. She was like, honestly, she said that this movie was more violent than Alien was. So
Yeah,
I know.
it is.
Runs on Matt's
She's
scale.
a fucking
Yeah.
Matt sympathizer.
Yeah, she really is a
because
Matt
it
sympathizer.
is.
I mean, I agree with that.
She was like, she was actually surprised me. She's like, that was really violent. I was
Okay.
like, but Clark was like, I want more.
Yeah.
And
Well,
so he's like 7.
Clark is an orc.
He is an
to be
orc.
fair.
Oh,
Absolutely.
And also, to be
Yeah.
fair, that just kind of proves that Alien is
Mhm.
Pussy Town. That people give it way more
Mhm.
clout than it
Mhm.
should.
No,
Mhm.
different
understand.
times, different
I
movies.
understand it is great
agree.
for what it brings to the table, like for the time that it came.
Right, but it's not scary. It's not.
But it's not
You're right.
scary. It's not.
It's.
It was groundbreaking for the time.
Right.
Respect that. Respect. Hard respect.
Mhm.
You
But
know?
so
but
I guess
yeah.
at the end of the day, what I'd get at is with family friendliness, this is, the mileage is going to vary depending on the parent. But for me, I think like 7 years old is probably fine, like 7, 8 years old. Like
Yeah.
especially if it's a kid that's just like isn't hyper affected by violence, which my son
Sure.
is not.
Right. Doesn't
So-
have very loving parents.
No, exactly. Yeah. Slightly disconnected from reality. No, my kids really dug it. I mean, they've watched some Marvel movies and stuff like that. So it's like, this
Well,
wasn't far outside
right.
of that.
Just wait until they're like, Dad, what's WoW?
Right.
Can you start paying for WoW? I want to play WoW.
Brother, it's like
We're already
20 years old now. It's
true.
Doesn't matter,
old
man.
hat.
Dated.
It does matter.
You don't think kids will play WoW?
I don't think
No.
my kids would like it. They are surprisingly picky once they see the good stuff.
Yeah.
When and they're
All right,
full
that's
blown.
a little harsh.
I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah, you
That
call
game's super
Fortnite the
dated. It's
good
like-
stuff.
Right.
so.
Well, I just mean as far as quality as graphics and stuff. Sure. But yes, once they see the updated graphics and whatnot. Now, granted, my son will easily turn on the old Pod Racer game from the 90s and he thinks it is awesome. It is on Xbox and
Because
PC
it is.
now. And
It is.
yes, you can get it. It's very cheap. It's like $2.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's great. But he plays that, but that's probably more to do with Star Wars than anything.
Mm.
So, anyways,
Yeah.
that's our themes. We'll go ahead and give you guys surface level view here really quick, and then we're going to dig into our spoiler review. So you have been warned for the future, but for right now, you can hang out. So as far as the thoughts on this, Matt, I think yours obviously, for once, it matters the most, Matt.
Yeah.
Your opinion matters the most here.
I like that. I always matter the most around
We'll
here.
let it
I'm
go.
glad to finally get
All
the
right.
limelight.
We'll
how
allow
it is.
We'll allow that.
All right.
So what do
Well,
you think?
since this is my first viewing,
Yeah.
and I've played some of the OG shit,
Yeah.
and I'm not a wower.
Wower. As one calls themselves a wower.
Yes,
Yeah, yeah.
yes, that's what Chris over there is. He's a
Those
wower.
Kids tell them.
All right, but I really enjoyed this movie.
Cool.
I think this is a low most excellent for me.
Awesome.
There's some CGI problems, which
Sure.
I
Absolutely.
thought going into this would be the problem and might be the reason I didn't see it originally. I honestly don't know why I didn't see this in theaters.
Right.
This is right up my alley.
Yeah.
Part of my childhood and all that jazz. Besides the CGI and maybe some storytelling stuff, I really enjoyed the movie.
You
So,
probably just didn't see it for the same reason everybody else did, which is they heard that the critics said it was bad and nobody went to see it in
Dude,
theaters.
I've never.
I don't know,
listened
word of-
to the critics.
I know you don't, but I'm saying word of mouth. Like even back
Maybe.
then, like we used to, like I remember even
That
not
was 2018. Like we were just about to start
16,
critically aroused. Oh,
16. This was in
even
college.
then, even
Yeah.
no. how
Was
I
it?
met
No,
you.
no,
You
it
were
wasn't
married
college.
then?
That's
Like,
why
I
I was
literally
10
knew
years
you
after
then.
college, you dumb fuck.
We're old.
That was
Okay, it wasn't college. I lied.
Yeah.
That was like 10 years after college.
Yeah, literally way after college. Dude.
That
I
was
graduated
10
at
years
12,
ago.
So
Don't.
college. Yeah, you know, because
I like had children and was
we're
married.
20 years old.
yeah,
That's cool.
I already knew you. Like we already were on the same page on movies. Like
In
there was
my
no
head,
way.
we saw this when I was in college.
Yeah.
In my head.
Why you weren't there?
I don't know why you didn't go with us
because
either.
I knew you then.
Yeah.
I don't know. I literally don't know why.
No, I don't know.
I don't know why. Yeah,
Yeah. It doesn't make
I already knew.
sense. So,
Uh,
yeah, that's really weird.
I know. I don't understand it.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I don't either. It's really
So,
strange.
Who knows?
Interesting. So
But
you
here
like
we are now. I
Most
liked
excellent.
it. Low most excellent.
Okay, cool.
so low miss excellent means like
Probably 85.
Okay.
damn.
If I was.
Yeah.
I mean 80s.
If you was
80 is the bottom.
Was.
85 if I was. So,
Okay.
you know,
Was
it
you?
is. I wasn't.
is you is or is you ain't my
I
baby.
wasn't. I wasn't.
All right. So most excellent
Yeah.
at an 85.
Love it.
Yeah.
Lower most excellent.
Yeah.
All right, cool. And so Chris, do you sit where you did when you first saw it? Or worse, better, same?
I don't
don't.
sit where I am.
Well, you're
You
out
go
of
with
WoW,
where-
right?
Was huh?
You're
So-
done with WoW, right?
Yeah, I haven't played.
Burnt out.
Yeah,
Maybe they
well,
should release a new game.
They have come out with multiple expansions. Okay,
no.
so
I said new
Like,
game.
Update it.
Those are different.
then no, they haven't come out with a new game.
I'm saying you're ready for one though.
Oh,
It's-
Like if they did, if
I'm
they were to
still
release
confused
a
at what
new-
you're asking.
if
right
they
now.
were to release a new game, would you play
Yeah.
it?
Sure, yeah.
that's what I said. You're ready for a new game,
Oh,
and you heard expansion. Because
It's
WoW
like
has
his brain is not.
WoW has
games
just
this point.
tuned.
also
no,
my
it's
ears
because
are so bad.
WoW has
I'm
just
an old
tuned
man.
players. to
Right.
Be like new game. You mean expansions? Because that's all we've
Right.
known.
Right. I mean,
For
that is
so
very true.
long.
You've been in it. You've been
That
wow.
would be very true. Yeah.
Yeah, that is exactly it.
No, like if they came out with a new game, I would 100% play it for sure. Yeah, I enjoy the aspect of it.
So
What-
so
yeah.
with this though, so with what you said, it sounds like you were maybe worse than you were when you first saw it, or are you better on the movie? Where do you sit?
What's your guess?
I would
Over
guess
under.
if you were to give it a score, I bet it's going to be like a 59. It's going to be in the decent range.
Damn. Okay. So whenever I first watched this movie,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay.
But I actually enjoyed it a lot more watching
Cool.
it now than the first time. Like I said,
Awesome.
you know, I can totally accept my flaws and my shortcomings. And like at the time when I first watched it, I was 100% like ashamed of, and like I said, like growing up, I was
Right.
for sure
You're
ashamed
like, I'm not a
of
fucking
playing.
nerd.
Yeah. That was
He
like
was,
the
though.
opposite. I was, but that was like the opposite of the
The vibe. You weren't trying to
it's-
give off those
it's
nerd vibes.
the opposite of what I wanted to portray as who I was. I
You were a
wanted to be-
big dick boy. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
you were like, I ain't trying to do that.
Mhm.
And back then, it was honestly a split 50-50. Actually, it was more like I spent more time outside
Right.
shitting around in the woods than I did on the game, but I still
Literally,
played WoW.
he would just go shit.
I
in the
would
woods.
literally shit in the woods. I was a bear.
Yeah.
I'm more of an otter now, I think, but
Yeah, you
I
would be
don't know
a
what
bear.
the terminology
Is that a gay term? Is that
Yeah.
like a
Yeah.
okay?
You don't know these?
Yeah, no, I don't know an otter. Is that
Because you're a fucking
what do you do? What do they do with the?
Republican shitter.
Mm.
No, but I did enjoy it a lot. I enjoyed it more now than I did back in 2016. Yeah,
Okay.
I appreciated it for what
So-
it is, and it was entertaining.
So
Where? Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
I would give it probably upper 70s.
nice.
I don't think it would break 80s for me, but I would
Okay.
say
Yeah.
77.
Okay.
It's probably a
Cool.
good
So an
score for me.
upper
Cool.
rad.
Yeah. Okay, I was about to go into like my tirade of
We'll-
what I enjoyed
Yeah,
about it.
we'll do that. In a
We'll get
minute.
back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know.
Okay, so I'll go ahead and just give you all my score with where I sit with it. I think it's around where I was last time. I did, this is one of those that I like words and all because I think that one of the big things is that we don't get enough high fantasy in
Yeah.
the film landscape. We don't like it, and I'm not talking about like just Lord of the Rings. Like this is a whole other level of high fantasy.
Sure.
And I know that it takes a lot of big budgets to get this type of thing made, but I still don't know why we don't get more of this
Yeah.
type of thing.
It feels really like split. Like
Right.
I feel like there's been so many universes that have failed
Right.
to be in this high fantasy thing because people are so often holding it to the standard of Lord of the Rings.
Right.
But I mean, what was it? Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Did
Well, and
it's
that
not
rides the line because
quite
it's
fantasy.
It keeps the magical elements on the DL,
Right, because it's
not
still
the dragons.
99% humans. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, yeah, the show did, but the books
do
did not.
I mean, I agree with you there. That's why I was.
That,
I was
that,
referring
that
to
was the
show,
only
not
reason I
books.
was just thinking about. I was like, well, that's just because they toned it down
Yeah,
because they're
right.
bitches at
They are.
HBO.
They are.
Well, I'm not a nerd, so I don't
Sure.
read. I don't know how to read. But the show was like 99% humans.
Yeah,
And so
which
in
is
this,
cheaper.
Right, it is.
Yeah.
I mean, in this, like we get dwarves and orcs and elves and everything, the whole gamut, like like Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Except for this is even on a whole nother level where they kept them. I actually thought this is with the failures and stuff in the CGI. Some of it is actually surprisingly good, and then some of it is like, "Ugh, that's bad." Like I thought the dwarves looked fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Like they looked so cool. Like
Mhm.
I really like the orcs. Like I actually think that the orcs are the most interesting part of this movie, and they look
Yeah.
fantastic.
and they're the biggest part of them.
And they are,
Right.
because I mean, obviously there was an orchist writing this movie. I mean, clearly.
And
It was orchestrated.
Yes, it was orchestrated. So as far as my score goes, I hang somewhere in the ballpark with you, where it's like I like it, even with its
Yeah.
flaws. I don't know if I'm as high as Matt, but I'm still at that upper rad area. I think that the critics are definitely wrong. This is probably like 76 or so
Okay.
in the Chris range. So
Yeah.
somewhere around in there. But I do think that I had fun with this movie. It's not perfect.
Right.
But I liked it. My kids liked it a lot. My son really liked it a whole bunch.
Yeah.
My daughter, she liked it, but she said specifically that she was not crazy about the introduction to this movie and found it confusing. And she said that there were some things that didn't make sense to her, like the two wizards when they interacted. She was like, they're like not friends, and he's attacking him, but then he's like, "You're my best friend." She's like, "No, that really made sense to me. I didn't feel like they explained it well enough." And I was like, I kind of feel the same way. And so she had some qualms with it, and she gave it, I think, a very low rad, like a 61 when I asked her. So.
Okay.
So, but I think I didn't ask Clark's score, but knowing him, he'd probably say like 100% because there was death. So, you know,
he is cool Dan.
He is cool Dan. He is. Absolutely. So, all right, guys, that's our spoiler free, just letting you know what you're getting into. And I think all of us would recommend watching it and not looking at that critic score. Now, I would say if you were not into high fantasy weirdness, like Sydney tried to watch it with us. She lasted like 40 minutes and was like, "I think it's nappy nap time. I'm going to bed." And she went to bed. So, I mean, but this is like, she's all into Lord of the Rings and Game of Thrones, but she likes the more, like I said, this is high fantasy, hard fantasy.
Sure.
This is not as much her bag as it is, you know, the other stuff like Lord of the Rings or, you know, so the more grounded. This is definitely a little less grounded, which feels like a totally different world, and which I like. I think is really cool.
It's much more, I guess, grounded is a good way to put it for that. This is much more fantasy. Yeah, it is an actual just fantasy video gamey.
Right. Yeah. And some of it literally kind of feels like a video game.
Oh, yeah.
Parts.
Yeah.
Which makes sense. I mean, for some of these settings and stuff.
Yeah.
But, and I will say, because I'm going to call it out because I've called it out in other things. Another thing that this movie suffers from is a slight bit of acolyte syndrome, being that there are several sets in this movie that are clearly sets. Like there are things where I'm like, that is a fake ass tree. Like that is a fake forest. Like there's not a ton, but there were several scenes where I was like, this doesn't look real to me. Like I
didn't notice that.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, there is a shit ton of CGI.
There is.
The vast majority.
Okay, I will say I did.
So-
Yeah, I mean, there's a shit ton of CGI.
Yeah.
So excluding
I'm
that,
talking less about CGI. I'm talking about some of the scenes. Like one of the scenes specifically, there's a scene in a forest when the humans first encounter the orcs, and the actual trees and plants and stuff to me just didn't look quite real. And I think some of this too, I will also say that some of this comes down to TV quality. And like,
What's wrong with your TV?
No, I'm saying
break your TV.
If it's a better TV, if you're using
need
like
a better TV.
if you're watching this in 4K and if you're watching this at a high resolution with like a really bright crisp television, sometimes it's like you can see the warts a little easier than you can.
Oh, you have too good of a TV.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
Lord.
You But I mean, seriously, I've noticed it on certain TVs where I'll watch it on something else. And I'm like, I didn't notice that at all. But then it's kind of like when we switched to HD TVs and you turned on a soap opera and you're like, this looks fake as fuck. Like, this looks really bad. It's kind of the same effect where now going back to some things like this, when you watch them on a really high resolution, like bright, nice TV, you almost notice things like this more than you would have in the past. So anyways, I just wanted to point that out.
Yeah.
But because of the fact that I recently called out Acolyte for it, and I noticed the same thing here. So we're going to go ahead and get into spoilers now. So bail out if you don't want this movie ruined. And if you plan on watching it, then just come back and finish the review later. So, all right, let's dig into spoilers, guys. Is there, what do you guys want to touch on first? Anything specifically?
Like I said, going into this, I don't have a whole lot to say about it.
What do you have to say about it?
It was an enjoyable movie. Like it was interesting that it was much more enjoyable now than in the past. Again, like I said, I had a lot of shame happening in the past. So I feel like I helped
back
that
when we were in college.
8 years ago. When we were children.
Yep.
So I don't know. I feel like maybe I had it or held it to a different standard than I do now. Right. But it was a fun movie. There was I honestly I feel like the acting was really good for what it was. Like the actors did a great job. I feel like there's so many movies nowadays to where I don't know, it can be a complex idea for the story, or maybe they're going out on a limb to try to, make something new, and they'll bring in new actors.
Right.
Obviously, the actors and actresses in this, or I guess they're all called actors now, but they're not novices. But I feel like they did a really good job in this to where it didn't feel dry. Like I feel like there's been a lot of even like Marvel or Star Wars shows, movies that I've seen recently to where the actors feel way more dry than they did in this movie. Yeah. So, for that, I give it a lot of kudos.
I think the industry is floundering across the board, and I think that we're seeing it now. And I think that things were just at a higher standard back then. And we've noticed it. I mean, it's just slowly been happening. I think some of it connects to writing. I think some of it connects to certain things like the wrong people getting the jobs, whether it comes to directors or coming down the pipeline and actors just not getting directed properly, or the wrong people just getting the roles for certain reasons. So, I mean, I do agree with you, though. I think that everything was really good in this. Travis Fimmel always blows me away. That dude has the same vibe no matter what he's in, but that dude, just the look on his face, it doesn't matter what emotion he's having, he's up to fuck shit. That dude always just looks like he is up to some bullshit.
Wait, which one's Travis?
The main guy, Auden Lothar, or however you say his name. Lothar.
Yeah. But also, can we just focus on the fact that his name is Travis?
Yep.
Motherfucker,
he's not a Travis.
He was in Vikings.
You're right.
His name should not be Travis.
Travis. He does not look like a Travis.
He was a Lothar.
He's actually an Australian.
Also, wasn't his
can't
name...
trust them.
You can't. It's too close to Brit, as Chris says.
You're adjacent by genetic adjacent.
Yeah.
Genetic.
I mean, they're a prison colony. Let's be honest. I mean, that's what they are.
Penal.
A penal.
Yep.
Let's not bring in your genetics. Fucking pervert. Oh, it's a penis colony. That's your dream come true.
True. But also not far off.
Right.
No, but like he's Australian. Travis, that kind of fits with Australian.
Right.
But what was the other thing he was in? Fuck, I just completely lost what I was thinking of.
He's done quite a few things.
Oh,
he was
Vikings.
raised by wolves. He was in Vikings.
Yes. Like, should he not have a name? Wasn't his name in Vikings?
Ragnar's Lothbrok.
Ragnar. Lothar. Yes. There's a lot of R's going on.
They're on.
Hard R.
Yeah. Hard R.
Okay.
Hard R's with this Travis guy.
Now, he was actually in a phenomenal television show that I would highly recommend. Chris, you should definitely see it if you haven't seen it yet. Boy Swallows Universe.
Nope.
It was
Never heard of it in my life.
Yes. I reviewed it on Criticalist, and I'm the only person that has reviewed it. I gave it a 92%. It came out this past year. It is extraordinarily underrated, and I think it's fantastic, and he's in it, does a great job.
I don't know. I don't think boys should be swallowing anything, but here we are.
Chris, I mean, Matt, why you got to make it weird? You just made it, that was like way worse than a Chris weird.
I was about to make it as weird. No, to the punch.
Well, the show is fantastic, and actually,
Boy Swallows World
Universe.
Isn't it?
universe.
All right.
Yes, it's very good. It's a Netflix original that came out this past year. Matt is still laughing at his own joke over here. If anybody wants to know, this is the most he's laughed in quite some time. He thinks
It's because you're my universe, Blaine.
Yep, that's why. Oh, made it really weird. Made it really, really weird. So yes, I think that everybody in this is great. There are a lot of top-notch actors. I mean, Toby Kebbell has been around for a while. He's one of these understated actors as well that's just done a lot of excellent things. And I thought he did a really good job. All the voice acting is just fantastic for the orcs, and just everybody shows up. I mean, and it's like I said, it's not perfect, but it's really everything else around it to me worked well enough.
Didn't they do? Is this one of the early adaptations of mocap? I feel like it is because like the orcs have that look about them to where it feels like it's mocap.
Right. Like they're in suits.
I could be wrong.
I don't know about one of the early ones, but I think it is definitely mocap.
I think it was one of the first movies that heavily relied on it.
Yeah.
Right.
But I feel like it was definitely done before this.
Yeah, I think so. Sure. But yes, I think so.
Yeah.
So, but I think actually one of the things that surprised me the most, and I didn't remember any of it from the last time I saw it, is just how surprising this movie is as far as some of the story turns that it takes.
Oh yeah.
And it kind of caught me off guard. I was like, damn, like they went there. And it just does that on multiple occasions. Now, I did remember Ben Foster turning bad. Did that surprise you, Matt? Did you see it coming?
No. Yes, of course I did. I see Ben Foster on screen. I'm like, bad guy. Bad guy. He's bad guy. I literally like his hand on the arm. I was like, he's the bad guy in the first 5 minutes of the movie.
Yeah.
And then I was like, well, maybe I'm wrong. After about halfway, and I was like, nope.
Yep.
I was right.
Then to get it.
I was right. He's the bad guy.
Right.
I knew it. I don't understand why, but he's
a great bad guy.
Yeah.
Now he's been a not bad guy plenty of times before, but
very
just
rarely.
So good. Like, he's been in a lot of things that I love him in, and I just want to see him more. I'm a big Ben Foster advocate at this point. He's just great.
Yeah.
But Dominic Cooper was great, and actually his love interest from Preacher was in this as well, who plays the Queen. So the King and Queen were the two leads from Preacher.
Yeah.
Like, it was an interesting cast. Now, the only person that was cast that I just wasn't totally sure about is the actor named Ben Schnitzer, who plays the Khadgar. Yeah. I wasn't crazy about his casting. There was something about him. He did a good job, and I didn't dislike him, and I liked the character. I liked how it was written, but there was just something about him. I just don't know that he was the best casting for that role. I don't. It was a weird qualm that I had.
I feel the complete opposite. I feel like he does a good job. Like I have only known in the lore Khadgar of being a matured wizard.
Right.
So like I don't know him as a kid as far as lore goes, but I feel like he portrayed that role well. Like
no, he did it well. I'm not saying he didn't. There was just something about it. I don't know. It's just one of those things. I don't even know how to exactly put my finger on it. It was just a thing.
To me, he seemed like the I don't remember the character's name in Game of Thrones, but
I know exactly.
Tyrion Lannister's like page boy, whatever, with the big dick.
They look
like,
very similar.
It is.
Yeah, I mean, but for whatever reason, like every time I saw him on screen, that was the vibe I was getting.
Right.
Even though he didn't fully act like that, I was like, this is what I'm getting.
I think that's the thing, is that something about his screen presence didn't scream the type of role that he was playing. But maybe that's because he was becoming a more grand character.
Yeah.
So you didn't like that he had a bigger dick than he should have.
Maybe.
No, I'm not really doing it. It's like he was like too cocky for his own good.
Maybe cocky. Actually, one thing, I don't know why all of this reminded me of it, but one thing that I think that this movie could have used a little bit more of was levity. I think that there could have been a little bit more comedy in this movie. I don't think there was enough.
They placed it also at weird times.
Agreed.
Like, so
it didn't quite work.
The biggest thing that stuck out of my mind, and it also was a very jarring screen transition, was whenever Khadgar and Lothar go to I can't remember the name, Kazakhstan, whatever. Whenever they're going to confront Medivh after they know that he's bad. Right. So they're like, he turns into the demon. Medivh does, and Lothar's getting choked out, and Khadgar like casts a spell, and then it cuts to somewhere else, and then they get thrown, I guess, across the room, and then all of a sudden it cuts to them being like behind the golem, like in the rafters or whatever. So it's just like a very weird like
transition.
Yeah, it's like okay, you just got thrown across the room and now you're behind this thing, like plotting your thing.
Right.
So it was, that was very.
And do you think that they were part of it was because they were playing it for comedic value and it just didn't work? Or
Well, okay, sorry, yeah, that's where I was going with that. So during that period,
yeah, there was like
he was making Lothar was making a lot of like jokes, and it was very like lighthearted during that. So it felt just weirdly placed, especially since that was like just after
and he was like running around barefooted
and yeah, like his son just died.
Yeah,
like literally the same day. I'm pretty sure. Oh no, maybe it might have been
no,
the next
he was
day.
in jail for like a day or two, but still.
But it's like you were just sobbing about your dead kid, like a bitch, and now you're like making jokes in a life-threatening situation. I don't know. It was a weird placement for that. So I'm agreeing with you that it was kind of not necessarily that it was missing, but just that they
just needed a little more direction on the comedy in the movie, I think. And yeah, that was kind of one of the shortcomings, I guess, for it. But it was still, I think, all in all, it's like with my complaints, I think I liked a lot more than I would have to complain about. And I would have liked to have seen them grow this world more. I would have liked to seen it go further.
Oh, yeah.
And with technology moving along and getting some better CG and stuff, it would have been really cool.
If Avatar can get like 3 sequels for a movie that didn't really matter, even though people saw it,
then
there's no reason Warcraft, which has the biggest like game following
fan base
it did at one point, maybe not now, but
I still think if they created a sequel, I think people would flock.
It would have to be a hard reboot at this point, but still
I don't think so. I think if they could do a sequel and make it where it could be a standalone where you didn't have to see the original, I think it could do
well. I mean, clearly they were making time jumps with this movie. And that's where I get at, like, as far as the lore in the world goes and what Chris was mentioning about, like, not seeing the wizard as young and that sort of thing. Like, I was beyond shocked that both of our lead orcs died and the kid survived. Like, I was like, holy shit. Like, both the orcs were my favorite freaking characters in this entire damn movie. Honestly, I think that the humans are the least interesting part of the whole thing. Like, and they're freaking dead.
Yeah.
But like also what they were doing with all that was excellent. And then for them to also have Garona actually move up as like this leader and
the perceived portrayal.
Yeah. Well, it's like they're setting up this interesting where you don't see too often in movies. You see this a lot in books, but not too often in a movie.
Agreed.
Where like you have this like forced betrayal kind of deal, and that'll have to come to light later on, and people are gonna have to deal with it. Like you just don't see that in movies.
Yeah.
So
I think that the story was honestly one of the strongest points.
Yeah, and we were kind of ripped not getting a second movie.
Absolutely.
To see that kind of come to fruition.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it really takes away from this movie not having a some kind of follow-up, whether it's 1 movie, 2 movies, whatever they wanted to do with it. But like it really takes away because it's such a huge story. Like I've heard so many people talk about how like video games are the next step in storytelling, where like you have books and then you have movies and now it's like video games, and where the Last of Us was like a huge phenomenon for video games and where it won a bunch of awards for storytelling and gameplay and all that shit. So, and it became a TV show, which was also highly accredited. So it's one of those things where like I feel like people will eventually begin to realize that video games have the potential to be a great vehicle for storytelling.
And we're getting there. We're getting there. I mean, like you said, the Last of Us show was pretty well received. And there have been
Fallout.
Fallout, which I freaking love. I mean, it's one of my favorite shows this past year or whatever. Like I loved it. And that's the thing, is that they were able to make something like that approachable to people who don't play games is really the sign of the success, where it's like, I mean, Sydney watched it, it's one of her favorite shows now. And she just, her only complaint about the show was that it ended too soon and she wanted more. Like that's a heck of a complaint for somebody who never played the game. And it's like, if we can reach that point, and I think that's the thing, is that this movie was just a little bit ahead of its time. Probably about 6 years.
Or it was after its time. It kind of was riding the coattail of Warcraft's peak.
Oh, for the
if it had been a couple years before when Warcraft was at the height of Warcraft,
I still think even then,
That's still pretty close to the
Right.
peak.
Yeah.
it was.
16, yeah. Because think about like South Park whenever they did their Warcraft. I feel like it wasn't
Episode,
that
right.
much more before
Far
that.
off
Like,
from that.
Yeah.
I
It-
agree. And I think that the thing is like I said, I mean, word of mouth goes a long ways. And
Yeah.
and that's the thing is if something like this opens and a whole bunch of fans hear that it's Dick, like I can see it being a case where they don't even show up. It's like, oh well, I was a little nervous and I didn't want him to mess up. The video game adaptations are always bad. So
Yeah.
I was
Right.
scared to see it. And after opening weekend, all the critics said it was shit. So I'm not going to watch it. And then all of a
Yeah.
sudden the movie tanks. So it has no legs. It doesn't get to go on for longer. And I think
Yeah.
that's a lot of the case of what happened with this.
but didn't you say that the critics score currently is like higher?
No.
It's like
Yeah.
34,
it's
35.
extraordinarily low.
No,
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
really bad.
It's very, very low. I was trying to find it again. Never mind. So, anyways, Chris, you were talking before we did the show about some issues that you had with the story, right? And just how
Yeah.
some of that played out.
Yeah, I mean it's a little nitpicky stuff, but there were certain parts of it that felt odd to me. So like the relationship between Khadgar and Medivh. So
Right.
like whenever he gets crushed by the golem, like Khadgar starts crying over him.
Mhm,
Like
mhm.
they've never had a relationship.
Right. And this is some of the stuff my daughter was talking about. Is like
Yeah.
when he like assaults him when they first meet, it's really
Right.
weird. And you're like, what just happened?
Yeah, they've never been like close. Like
Mhm.
so okay, maybe my only kind of like way to rationalize this is that like Khadgar knows about the Guardian and like holds him in a high esteem, but
Right.
to like cry over him whenever you literally he killed him
And
by
it's kind of
dropping
shitty since you've known him.
Yeah.
right. Like he's been nothing but a shitlord. Well, he was kind
He
of
was
like
kind of nice.
yeah,
yes.
he-
Well,
you know,
yeah, I was about to say it's kind of like a paternal, like, I'm
yeah.
gonna be your.
Sorry, you just reminded me of something.
Yeah.
The flower that he gave to Garona, was
Right.
that something?
No.
And also, was he her dad?
No.
Okay.
Nope.
Do we know who her
Well,
dad is?
Yes, but I
No?
don't.
Yes.
Okay. You
I
don't
didn't.
Yeah, it's
Watching
in
the
the-
movie from
I was like,
outside
maybe.
perspective, I had no idea. I thought the same thing. I was like, is that flower supposed to mean something? I was like, oh,
Well, I
obviously
was
something
also
to
like,
gamers, but
is that her dad? Because he's talking about going to the other worlds and
Right.
falling in love and all this stuff. And I'm like, is he alluding to the fact that he's her dad?
Mm,
But I'm pretty sure not. I think it is told in the lore, but not within the movie.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because obviously she had a human come to the orc world, and that's how she exists, right? Because she's half human, I guess.
Right.
Seems like.
Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, I was just curious about all of that, but there were a few things that I was a little muddy on, like you were saying,
Right.
especially with the Khadgar and Medivh, the wizard, like their relationship.
Yeah, like the fact that he was like crying as he was dying felt
Mhm.
weird, disingenuous to
Right.
just be like,
yeah.
I mean, you murdered him, or not murdered, but you killed him, and also you've never had a close relationship with him.
Right.
But also like the whole not Gamora, but yeah, Gamora,
It's not
No.
it's Garona.
Garona. That's Guardians.
Yeah, green chick.
Garona, and they're both green and chick.
Yes.
Mhm.
I mean, they are there. There was a lot of like Hulk / Gamora,
Right.
vibes going on in
yeah.
this for
Yeah,
sure. My
yeah,
daughter was
yeah.
talking about that. She's like, all of these orcs just look like really awesome, super mean Hulks.
Yeah.
I'm like, pretty much. That's what they are.
But also her relationship with Lothar, it was very sudden. Like it didn't 100%. There wasn't a lot
Happened
of.
pretty quick.
They didn't build the story up as to why she was
Mhm.
all of a sudden in love. It was kind of like
He was
she
just
was-
like, he was like, girl, you thick. I'm vibing. Like, I'm getting on board with this orc train. Choo choo, as Matt would say. And then it just happens, That's how
Yeah.
it goes.
but he didn't really do anything. It
You're
was
right.
more so like
He's picking up on them big D vibes. You know what I'm saying?
could be.
I mean, she talked about that. She's like, he's a warrior. He's. I can tell. He's
Right.
packing heat.
true.
This guy
Yeah.
is slinging it.
She went from like real hardcore, like putting up
Dorky.
a front
Right.
to just being.
She was like, I will
thirsty
break you in
a
half
minute.
if I
Yeah.
ride you. So
Right.
that scene was that is the one scene in the movie where Dylan got it, Clark didn't, and she was just like, and I was like,
Why do you get
But-
that? You don't get that.
yeah, yeah,
You don't
Stop it.
understand.
yeah. You don't
Stop
get
it.
this joke.
these things.
Yeah, but yes, that's the only adult content. In
Yeah.
this, but
Mhm.
yeah, I agree though. There are a few little bits, but honestly, it's like those are more nitpicky. But and that's the
Yeah.
thing is, it's like I just feel like the critics really gave this thing hell. I mean,
Yeah.
clearly,
It definitely does not deserve a 30 or 20 or
20
whatever
something
it
or whatever,
is.
yeah.
Yeah.
Right. I could see people coming in and be like, okay, this is decent,
Right.
but not in the
Right.
30s, not in a bogus range.
And right now within Criticlist, we are sitting at 6 voters, and then if you were to add the 3 of us as well, but Matt, your wife gave it an 85%. She was
Yeah.
extraordinarily mad that she didn't see this back when it came out,
Yeah.
and thinks it's super awesome. And then
Yeah.
we had Terrapin Reviews gave it a 60%. We've got Caveat Ties gave it a 68. John Ray Movie Man gave it 100%. He freaking loves this thing. Like he's all
Yeah,
about it.
that's
John Ray is the
wild.
man, and he is
Dude, totes.
particular as well. So yeah, he gave it 100% and just really loved it. We've got Said What at a 60% and Jedi X at a 62%. So it sounds like at the very least this is going to be a rad, at least for after by the time we drop our reviews and a few other
Yeah.
people do. So definitely, I mean, we'll have our 3 in. That'll put us at 9, and one more, and we'll be at 10. So
Right.
Gazak,
yeah,
step up, brother.
right. I'm
Yeah.
curious if Kyle off script has seen this and reviewed it. I don't
feel like
know. I
he
feel like
would
he
like it.
probably would have, and I feel like he would
Yeah.
like it as well. So I have no idea, but yeah, we'll definitely see some more reviews for this. And clearly, a lot of people are watching it, and this was actually what was requested for us to review. A lot of people were like, "Hey, I've seen it on Netflix. I'm wanting to watch it." And a lot of people commented when Xena left her review and was like, "I actually really remember liking this too." So
Yeah.
this comes back to that regular thing that we talk about critics hating things that audiences love and vice versa. It just seems that they are regularly not on the same page as us. And also it just comes down to the faulty system that is Rotten Tomatoes. And it's just that thumbs up, thumbs down system that just doesn't work. It's not granular enough and doesn't allow for any type of gray area whatsoever. So
Yeah.
it makes sense that happened to this movie, but it's just not really fair to something like this that is
Right.
actually good. And so I think, we've covered a good bit of this movie. If there's not
Yeah.
anything else y'all wanted to talk about with it, but
There's one thing I want to say,
yes, say
just
it.
as a comparison.
Okay.
For whatever reason, this movie feels very comparative to Valerian. Like, I know it's a completely
Huh.
different
I
setting.
hated that movie deeply.
Oh,
I
shit.
really
Okay.
disliked it, but
all right. Well, I was
not to
going to say that I feel like this is better than Valerian in
I agree.
some ways.
right.
But I know it's a completely different setting, theme, everything. Like
Yeah,
that's
right.
space, blah
Like
blah.
sci-fi
doesn't it-
versus fantasy.
Doesn't it kind of
I
feel
think I
like
actually
the
understand what he's
same?
getting at.
Like it feels
it's
very
the-
similar.
They
it's
both use CGI.
True.
It is
There
a lot
are
of CGI.
people-
I think he's talking about the grandiose nature of it, just the tone. A lot of that is kind of similar.
Yeah.
I understand
Yeah.
what you mean. Now, granted, I didn't hate that movie, but
Oh, you hated it.
I really dislike it a
Jesus,
lot.
okay.
Yeah.
I really like that movie.
I
It'd
like
be
it
the
as
exact
well.
opposite. I've seen it probably at least 10 times.
What?
Holy
Yeah, I
shit.
watch it pretty regularly.
I hated
It's
it.
a really cool movie.
I'm going to put it this way. I don't walk out of movies. I almost walked out of it. I disliked it that much.
What
People that watch that
hell,
movies
man?
are little bitches.
Like,
I don't walk out of movies. I'm saying I don't.
What-
I really disliked it.
What did? Okay, well, that's a different
Yeah, we-
conversation.
maybe
Yeah, I don't
do it
understand
one
that
day.
I
either.
need to talk to you about why you hate
I need to
it.
I need to see it again. I don't know. I just remember watching it in theaters, and I don't know. Like it's the director of The Sixth Sense. I had some of that in mind. I just remember watching it and being like, "This sucks. Like I don't want to watch this." And yeah, I got really bored. I almost fell asleep. I think it was like one of those things. I was just like, I don't.
Bored. Wait,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All
You,
right.
you watched definitely a different movie.
Yeah, we are
I
not the
don't
same
understand
person.
that.
I'll tell you
I
that
guess
much,
we're
brother.
definitely
There's some
Oh,
wooden
no.
acting in it.
Bad, real bad.
But-
acting.
Oh, the dude is the worst part of
which
it.
who's
The
the
sci-
very
all the
good actor?
sci-fi elements of it that are continually throughout the
I do. Do
whole
you remember like
thing
a
are just
weird
wild.
maze kind of thing with like a
That's
a
Maze Runner.
shop?
Different.
No, not that.
No, he's talking about
Oh.
the market
Dude,
like
that you have to go on to the
like
different
VR
dimensions to
goggles
go
on
into
it.
because it's different dimensions.
That's the only thing I really
Yeah.
remember about it.
Fucking cool.
Yeah,
Maybe I need to see it again. I don't know. Maybe it just
Dude,
wasn't
yeah.
what I expected, but I remember like really disliking
because
it.
it's the same person who did Fifth Element.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
not
Yeah.
Sixth Sense.
Oh, I meant to say fifth.
5, 6.
Yeah,
numbers.
same
Who gives a
difference.
shit?
Yes,
is-
you're right though. Yes, Fifth.
and you
Element.
can feel his presence.
Oh,
in
you,
this
you
movie
can, but like the
strongly.
Fifth Element is really good, and like this one
was also really good.
Not.
I
Yeah.
enjoyed it plenty.
Well, now I feel like we need to like watch again. Maybe
Shit,
we'll-
yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
curious where critics said. Maybe that's part of. Maybe it sits in that realm as well. Of the
You're the
critics
critic
hate it.
in this
I might be the
situation.
critic because I remember really not liking it.
Maybe.
But yeah, so anyways, that's it for Warcraft though. Let us know what you think. Hop in the comments and give us your thoughts, especially if you're one of these new viewers like Matt who missed it back in the day. We're really curious what y'all think. And thanks for just sticking it out this long. And we will be back to bring you the news next week. But until then, take it easy.
Peace out.
Later, guys.